The fight for the unborn happens on many fronts, as we know. The overturning of Roe versus Wade left that issue of abortion up to the states, and the pro-life movement has seemingly faced really an uphill battle to defend life in 50 very different legal landscapes.
Well, that's right. Since 2022, 18 states have seen abortion on the ballot. EWTN News' Catherine Hadro gives us a look at the wins and losses for life on the ballot.
The exciting thing is that women are going to be protected from an industry that sometimes doesn't care much about them.
In August of 2022, just weeks after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, pro-life advocates in Kansas eagerly watched as votes rolled in for a special election. Earlier that day, Kansans voted on the Value Them Both Amendment, a pro-life measure that would have allowed state legislators to regulate or restrict abortion. It was the first time abortion was on the ballot in a post-Roe America, and many saw the initiative as a bellwether for future ballot initiatives. Pro-life advocates dedicated their summer to a grassroots approach, and pro-abortion groups spent millions on media campaigns. Pollsters expected a tight race, but pro-life advocates were shocked and disappointed when the final vote was tallied and voters overwhelmingly rejected Value Them Both, leaving abortion legal in Kansas.
The abortion industry came in with 71% of its funding from out of state, and they were able to sow a lie that the passage of the Value Them Both Amendment would somehow harm women, and in some cases they said that actually that women would die because of its passage. And ultimately that's why we were not successful this evening.
Later that year, during the midterm elections, pro-life advocates saw 3 more states, California, Michigan, and Vermont, enshrine abortion as a so-called right into their state constitutions. Voters in 2 states, Kentucky and Montana, rejected pro-life initiatives. In 2023, pro-life advocates faced a 13-point defeat when voters in reliably red Ohio approved a referendum to add a right to, quote, reproductive freedom to the state constitution. A record 10 states voted on abortion in the 2024 election. 3 states, Colorado, Maryland, and New York, already had very liberal laws where abortion is legal in all 9 months of pregnancy. And not surprisingly, the abortion measures passed in all of these states. In Arizona, 61% of voters approved extending the abortion window from 15 weeks up to 24 weeks. Montana followed suit with enshrining their 24-week abortion law into the state constitution, with more than 57% of the voters approving. Pro-abortionists argue viability, or when a baby can survive outside of the womb, is at 24 weeks.
They're claiming viability is at 24 weeks. Medical science has advanced so much that now viability in many places is actually as early as 22 weeks. So these amendments actually keep us in medicine from a decade or 2 ago.
Missouri was a big loss for the unborn, but it was a close race for Amendment 3. 51% of voters favored an amendment that legalized abortion up to that 24-week mark.
I think it's encouraging that some of these states were close. Where we've seen losses, it's because there's misinformation.
In Nevada, an abortion measure passed with 63% of voters in favor of creating a constitutional right to abortion until fetal viability. But the pro-life movement still has a chance to change hearts and minds. The abortion measure needs to pass another election cycle in 2026 to become law. 3 states celebrated pro-life wins, the first at the ballot post-Roe. In South Dakota, voters chose to keep a law that protects babies during all 9 months of pregnancy and rejected Amendment G, which would have constitutionalized a so-called right to abortion in the first trimester. Nebraska voters found themselves in an unusual situation when they had to vote on dueling abortion ballot measures. In a win for the pro-life movement, voters approved a measure that keeps the state's 12-week abortion limit and rejected a measure that would have allowed abortion until 24 weeks. And in Florida, a pro-abortion amendment failed to get the necessary 60% of the vote.
I want to thank Governor DeSantis because this is clearly a part of his leadership. This is a result of him having a strong pro-life stance.
But it was close. Some 57% of voters there wanted to constitutionalize abortion. Despite more voters in favor of the abortion measure, it still failed because of that 60% threshold law.
For the first time this year, we now have 3 victories in 3 different states.
Catherine Hadro, EWTN News.